afternoon, and thank you very much for Buiatrics for giving me this chance to speak this afternoon. My name is indeed Victoria Hudson, and I am a clinical livestock registrar at the University of Sydney. And my presentation is on the influence of insemination timing post-enrolment in an oestrus synchronisation programme on twin pregnancy rates in dairy cattle. The objectives of this study were to determine if the timing of AI following an OV-sync or prostaglandin oestrus synchronisation programme was a risk factor for twin pregnancies in dairy cattle. Now, the relevance of this is that there are many, many options available to us for use prior to AI. All of them have their own individual pros and cons, and we have to consider these when we're choosing which one is right to use in a herd. Twinning is a big problem for dairy cows. It can result in an increased incidence in fresh cow postparturient disorders, such as dystocia, retained placentas, metritis, acetonemia, and LDAs. And following these, we can see a decreased reproductive performance, with increasing average numbers of days open and services per conception. And as a consequence, these guys have an increased culling rate compared to their single-bearing herd mates. And for the calves, it doesn't get much better. There's an increased incidence of abortion, stillbirth, and neonatal mortality. And only 8% of heifers born from heterozygous twin pregnancies are regarded as fertile. Now, with this actual figure, we have to take it with a slight pinch of salt, as the reference is almost as old as I am, so I think it could do with a refresher. There's an increased incidence of neonatal calf diseases, including scour and pneumonia seen, and with average decreased birth weights, these twin calves struggle to catch up with their peers on finishing time. So what did we do? Reproductive data was collected from a high-yielding, free-stall, year-round calving Holstein herd over a 12-year period in New South Wales in Australia. During the latter part of the study, the herd expanded from 2,000 to 3,500 cows. Weekly vet visits, including pregnancy diagnosis by transrectal ultrasound at 32 to 39 days, were conducted. The farm used a combination of natural heats, prostaglandin and OV-sync synchronisation programmes, followed by an AI for everyone. And over this 12-year period, 12,267 pregnancies were recorded in lactating cows. Insemination data, parity, synchronisation details, pregnancy results, and number of calves born were all recorded using DairyComp 305 on the farm. And we analysed the data using a multivariable generalised mixed linear model with binomial distribution. And we entered in with twin births as the response variant and cow ID as the random factor. So looking to the top right, twin births accounted for 8.6% of calving events. And looking generally at the figures, twinning following a natural heat was 8.1%. Following an OV-sync wasn't that much difference, but following a prostaglandin synchronisation course, it was significantly increased to 10.2%. Focusing more closely on the timing of the AIs, looking at the prostaglandin oestrus synchronisation programme in the middle, in green, it revealed that insemination on days 1 to 4 post-prostaglandin resulted in an increase in twins, which was not significant. However, on breedings of days 5 to 9, following PG, it almost doubled to 14.47%, but this wasn't significant. Then looking at the bottom to the OV-sync synchronisation programmes, cows inseminated on the standard day 10 of the course had an incidence of twins of 7.16%. Those who were observed to cycle and were bred during the OVSYNC programme had a higher incidence of twins, with breedings at days 1 to 7, with 12% of twins, and then going on at days 8 to 9 at 14.3%, both of which were significant. Other variables which we found to be significantly influential were parity, with breedings of first lactation cows to have the lowest incidence of twins. Our second lactation cows were 10.15% likely to have a twin, and this was then stepwise reduced with later parities. The season was also significant, with those who conceived in autumn and winter as having a higher incidence of twin conceptions. One result we weren't quite expecting was that year was also significant. The study spanned from 2004 to 2015. Marked by the red stars, there was a significant increase in the probability of a twin conception observed in the last 2 years of the study, which corresponded to the timing when the farm switched from off-sync 56 hours to co-sync 72 hours. So in conclusion, on initial glance, synchronisation programmes have a small effect on the twinning rates in dairy cows. However, when we look at them more closely, the timing of that AI is more significant. The increased incidence of twin births following the switch from off-sync 56 to co-sync 72 raised the question as to the mechanism of twinning, but with only 2 years' worth of data, we're still following this up. So what are the implications of this study? Well, for all of us, knowledge is power, and it allows for better informed decision-making processes when choosing an oestrus synchronisation programme for a farm. I mentioned at the start that there are pros and cons of all the oestrus synchronisation programmes, and here we see that although co-sync 72 was more labour efficient, and that's why the farm chose to change to it, it does, however, have an increased rate of twinning compared to the off-sync 56. We can discuss with our clients if their current system can cope with this additional number of twin pregnancies. And from our scanning data, if we see that there are more twins diagnosed early on in pregnancy, and there are an increasing number of AIs that are occurring outside the standard timings, we have the option of looking to manipulate the ovarian function to reduce further numbers of double ovulations and twin pregnancies. Our clients can decide what they're going to do with this increased number of twins as well. Either keep both embryos, terminate both, or terminate one and potentially risk the other. But at least we can advise them on one path or another. And for the cows, we can sympathetically tailor the management and monitoring of those if we're anticipating a greater number of twins born. For the pregnant lactating cow, we can monitor and adjust body condition score and introduce additional pregnancy checks to ensure the fetuses are still viable. For dry cows, we can monitor diet and energy more closely to ensure that the risk of milk fever and acetonemia is reduced. For fresh cows, we can monitor and respond more quickly to postparturient diseases, which are at a higher prevalence with these twin-bearing cows. And thinking of these at-risk groups within the fresh cows, we can identify those who conceived in autumn and winter and look after them more carefully when they calve down in summer and are at a greater risk of heat stress. Similarly, those who conceived in their second lactation and are carrying twins, we can look after them a little bit more carefully too, as they have only just broken economically even for the client and have a long life ahead of them. So they're well worth the extra attention. So for all these fresh cows, we can have strategic monitoring of beta-hydroxybutaраtes, perform standardised metritis checks, monitor rumination activity, milk production, and have a vet-approved fresh cow disorder action plan. And not forgetting the twins. We can tailor our calf management and monitoring with greater calving assistance, providing greater neonatal care, giving them appropriate feeding for a smaller sized calf, and we can anticipate free martins by giving our clients the option of rearing those heterozygous twin pair heifers, either as steers or, fingers crossed, raising those heifers and hoping that they're fertile. I'd like to thank Moxie Farms in New South Wales and also my fellow clinicians at the University of Sydney for all their help in connecting this study. And thank you very much for listening today.